The bodies started arriving through the night, mourners from early morning. Israel say they were targeting militants. The Gazan health authorities say residential buildings were struck by airstrikes, killing at least 31. Nearly 2 years into this war that began with atrocities committed by Hamas and now sees intensifying military action by Israel. The UK government has decided now is the moment for a historic declaration.
So today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the State of Palestine. We recognised the State of Israel more than 75 years ago as a homeland for the Jewish people. Today, we join over 150 countries who recognise a Palestinian state also.
There has been no let-up in this war. In July, Sakir threatened recognition unless Israel commit to a ceasefire and long-term peace that delivered a two-state solution. Today, he moves in lockstep with France, Canada and Australia, but has been criticised by the US and Israel.
We will have to fight, both at the UN and in all other arenas, against the false propaganda directed at us and the calls to establish a Palestinian state, which would endanger our existence and constitute an absurd reward for terrorism.
Yes, it is. Can I have a photo with my... Okay, it's such a historic day.
Shaking hands with the Palestinian representative to the UK this morning, the former Foreign Secretary David Lammy. This is not a historic day, though, say some families of those still being held hostage by Hamas, who wrote an open letter to the government saying today, quote, complicates efforts to bring home our loved ones.
And many in the Jewish community say you are rewarding acts of terrorism here.
There can be no place for Hamas in Gaza, but let us not confuse the Palestinian people with Hamas. And it's important that we hold out for two states.
But Hamas has said that recognition of Palestine is one of the fruits of October 7th. You are delivering them one of the fruits, one of their gifts.
Hamas is a repugnant, proscribed organisation
and you're
that
giving them one
should
of their
release
gifts.
Those hostages.
But you're not making the release of hostages a condition.
It's important to emphasise that at this time it is important that we move towards a ceasefire and we move towards peace, and that it can't be right to say to Palestinian children looking to their future that Hamas should have a veto on the prospects of them having a Palestinian state.
Sir Keir Starmer said more sanctions would follow for Hamas, but detail as to how today would bring about peace is lacking.
Symbolism is important. However, we need to be realistic about without ending the war in Gaza, without diffusing the situation in the West Bank, it will remain mainly a gesture of goodwill and not change the course of history of Israel and Palestine.
The Prime Minister lacks the backing of some in his own party, though, including Lord Turnberg, who left the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn, but was won over by Sir Keir.
I think it's a mistake. I've always been in favour of a two-state solution, but I can't see Israel changing its opinion one iota by this, what I think is a very feeble gesture.
Why do you think Keir Starmer is going ahead with it then?
Oh, I think it's political. I think it's due to pressure from his left wing and the international pressure.
For the Palestinian representative to the UK, today is not just symbolism, but a step towards peace.
So recognition is a significant step in the right direction. It's long overdue, but to come now is an acknowledgement of the wrongs of the past.
Today, a chorus of international voices recognised a Palestinian state as a sea of people flee Gaza City with only that which they can carry. Tens of thousands who not only don't have a state, but right now don't even have roofs over their heads.
Well, the Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank but not Gaza, has greeted the news saying recognition is welcome but not enough by itself. So what does that mean? Our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Secunda Kamani, is with me. So.
Well, Christian, I think no one, not Western leaders, not Palestinian leaders, are under any illusion about how dire the situation is on the ground. Of course, the bloodshed in Gaza, also the record level of settlement expansion that we've been seeing in the occupied West Bank. This is a major diplomatic victory for Palestinian officials. It is an attempt by Western leaders to keep alive the hope of a two-state solution. But with the US opposed to it, it's not clear what kind of tangible, immediate impact it will have. I've been speaking to the Deputy Foreign Minister of the Palestinian Authority. I began by asking him whether these statements recognizing a Palestinian state are just of symbolic value.
It's not only symbolic, it's a practical step to implement the two-state solution. It's not only sends a message of hope to the Palestinian people, but also it sends a message to the Palestinian people that we see your struggle. While you are facing this existential threat, we recognize your right to life, right to exist, right to your own state. Within that state, you are sovereign, not Israel. So they are sending also messages to Israel that they are not sovereign within the territory of the State of Palestine that UK and other countries are recognizing. So it's a practical step. It's consistent with the natural, legal, moral right of the Palestinian people to self-determination.
But when you look at the bloodshed in Gaza, events hit in the occupied West Bank, the fact that the United States is not supporting, is not recognizing a Palestinian state, what tangible difference will it make now, do you think?
Recognition should be linked to practical measures. Some of these practical measures is the embargo, weapon embargo. Some of these practical measures are consequences and sanctions on this regime that is perpetrating the crime of all crimes, which is genocide. So in all cases, recognition will lead to actions toward confronting the illegalities that Israel is committing.
The Palestinian president has promised to hold elections next year, I understand. All the polls prior to October the 7th, post-October the 7th, indicate that Hamas would win those elections. So what does that mean for any kind of Palestinian state?
If the war is end, within 1 year we will be having elections. And that elections, if it's democratic, that means that will answer the will of the Palestinian people. And I doubt that there is any polls that talks about this fraction or that faction, this movement or that movement. We believe that those who will win the elections will be those that the Palestinian people already choose.
And the Israeli reaction?
Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu has called it an absurd prize for terrorism. Interestingly, even his political opponents further to the left have also condemned the move, as have the relatives of the Israeli hostages held in Gaza. Netanyahu's far-right coalition allies want him to annex large parts of the occupied West Bank in response. One leading commentator that I've been listening to says nothing quite that drastic is likely to happen, though there is likely to be some kind of territorial expansion or territorial changes. We're not likely to find out what exactly that is until the end of the week, because this is the start of the Jewish New Year.
Right, thank you very much, Secunda. Well, of course, there's going to be a great deal of activity at the United Nations General Assembly in New York this week. Tomorrow, the French and the Saudis continue their push for a two-state solution, and we'll also likely see the French and the Belgians formally recognise a Palestinian state at that point. And then during the course of the week, we will hear from world leaders, and Netanyahu is saving his big riposte to this for his speech to the United Nations. Well, from the Foreign Affairs spokesman, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Israel, we have their spokesman, Oren Marmerstein. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, your Interior Minister, Ben Gvir, who's on the far right, is demanding immediate countermeasures. Is that what he's going to get in this government?
Good evening, Christian. It's good to be with you. Can I start with a very simple question?
No. You always do this, and I want you to answer my question. Don't come with your pre-prepared statement. What is Ben Gvir going to get for his demand for countermeasures?
I think it's a question you need to ask Ben Gvir. It makes sense.
He's a senior minister.
He is a minister. I'm here to represent the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Israeli policy. And the question I wanted to ask you, Are you hoping for peace in the Middle East?
I'm not here to answer your question.
So I want to answer.
You're here to answer mine. No, we're not having speeches.
No speeches.
You're here to answer questions, okay?
So
the question is, when you say this is a reward for terror, why do you not see that in fact what this is your close allies, Britain, France and others, Canada, Australia, telling you you're getting this wrong and you need to think again?
Answering your question. You know how Hamas called it? The fruits of the massacre, in their own words. So, and I will ask you, do you want to see peace in the Middle East? I will answer. I want to see peace in the Middle East. I want to see my daughters grow up in a different...
So why not listen to your allies who say the route to peace in the Middle East is the two-state solution, and the route to that is recognition of the Palestinian state?
This statement, coming out of London and other cities in the world, does not promote peace. Perhaps it corresponds with some internal domestic issues, I don't know. But one thing I know for sure, it does not promote peace. On the contrary, it promotes destabilizing the Middle East, destabilizing the area, rewarding
terrorists. How does it destabilize? What does it do?
I will answer. It's giving a gift to terrorists, rewarding violence.
How does it actually destabilize anything? There are already nearly 150 countries that recognize
the message
Palestine.
you are sending, or the people sending this announcement, this declaration is, if you go out, if you kill 1,200 Jews, massacre families, burn them alive, you will be rewarded. This is the worst thing you can do. And I would say another thing.
But hang on, did you listen to Starmer's
I
speech?
did. Actually, I did.
In which he said
to the entire
Hamas
6
has
minutes.
no future in Gaza. They are terrorists in his view, and they are looking at further sanctions. So it's not a reward to Hamas. What he is saying is that if Israel, as it has, kills 60,000 Palestinians, if it starves them, if it continues to destroy cities, you have your finance minister saying that this is the demolition stage of what's going on in Gaza, and soon you'll be building. If you behave like that, then your allies will effectively tell you off and say, no, you need to deliver a Palestinian state. That's the message.
Might be wrong. And in this case, they are very much wrong. Because what they're doing is not promoting peace. If you want to see peace, you need to keep in mind that statehood is part of a peace negotiation, part of a conversation, a concession between two parties. This is not what's happening.
You're not prepared to negotiate, though, are you? I mean, you bombed the negotiations in Qatar.
No, the negotiation is not with Hamas. Hamas is the one that is trying. If Hamas will be next to us in this moment, they will slaughter me alive. And they will do the same to my family. They have it in their charter. Kill every Jew. That's it. So we're not negotiating with Hamas.
But to end the war, you were negotiating with Hamas, and that's what you bombed.
And the idea is to end the war, and you touch on a critical point. If people in London want to see this war comes to an end, and this is what I want to see. I want to see this war coming to an end. They need to do two things. First, demand the immediate release of the hostages. First, demand Hamas to disarm immediately. Any other move, gesture politics is just giving Hamas more energy to continue fighting. Why would this be the will of the people in London? I don't think, by the way, it's the will of the people of London. For what I hear, most of the people in the UK oppose this step by the UK Prime Minister.
Oren Marmerstein, thank you very much.
Thank you.